information would recognize. But as weeks passed, the transmissions became more complex. Recent signals captured by Chinese waves include what appears to be encoded imagery. Data patterns that were processed through various decoding algorithms might represent visual information. Some researchers believe these could be star charts showing Oumuamua's point of origin. Others think they might be diagrams explaining Oumuamua's purpose or capabilities. A communications engineer analyzing the Chinese data described the sophistication. These transmissions use layered encoding, multiple types of information packed into the same signal. There are clearly identifiable header sequences that mark the beginning of data packets.
At 50, you're going places. Take the IMB Everyday 50 Plus account with you, with no international transaction fee.
Particularly intriguing is that Oumuamua's signals show adaptation. When China's radio telescopes transmitted experimental responses toward Oumuamua, the object's subsequent broadcasts incorporated elements from those transmissions. Oumuamua is listening, processing what it receives, and adjusting its messages accordingly. This represents interactive communication, not just blind broadcasting. Oumuamua appears to be trying to establish a dialogue, testing different approaches, modifying its strategy based on whether it receives responses. That's behavior consistent with intelligence actively seeking contact. The Chinese data also reveals that Oumuamua's transmissions aren't omnidirectional. They're beamed, focused broadcasts aimed at specific targets. Some transmissions are directed toward Earth, others aimed toward locations in deep space, possibly communicating with origin points or other objects we haven't detected yet. Most intriguingly, China captured Oumuamua sending focused transmissions toward specific Earth locations, not just toward the planet generally, but toward particular coordinates on the surface. These targeted beams were aimed at major population centers, significant geographical features, and interestingly, toward the locations of large radio telescope arrays. It's as if Oumuamua knows where our communication facilities are located and is specifically trying to get their attention, either through remarkable detection of our electromagnetic emissions or through prior mapping of Earth's infrastructure. Oumuamua has identified where humans might be listening and is directing messages to those locations. China's release of this data puts NASA in an impossible position, and their continued silence speaks volumes about what they know but aren't saying. When another major space agency publicly contradicts your official narrative with hard evidence, standard protocol is to respond. You either refute the claims with your own data, acknowledge the discrepancies and explain them, or engage in diplomatic channels to reconcile the differences. NASA has done none of these things. No press conference addressing China's findings. No technical paper challenging their methodology. No statement explaining why Chinese observations would differ so dramatically from American data. Just silence. A former NASA public affairs specialist explained what this silence likely means. NASA doesn't deny China's findings because they can't. Their own classified tracking data probably shows the same things China just released. The silence isn't confusion. It's calculated strategy to avoid confirming information they're not ready to share publicly. But the silence creates its own problems. Every day NASA says nothing. More people see China's evidence and start questioning why America's space agency won't respond. The void of information gets filled with speculation, conspiracy theories, and erosion of public trust in NASA's credibility. Some analysts believe NASA's silence is coordinated with other Western space agencies to present a unified front of no comment rather than validate China's claims. But that strategy is failing as more nations review China's data and find it compelling. Russia quickly released a statement agreeing with China's assessment. India's space program published observations that align with the Chinese findings. Even some European scientists have broken ranks to say China's data matches what they privately observed but weren't authorized to discuss publicly. NASA might also be silent because acknowledging China's evidence would require explaining why they've been downplaying these capabilities for months. Admitting that Oumuamua has propulsion, maneuvering ability, and communication systems would validate everyone who questioned NASA's just a common narrative. It would make NASA look either incompetent for not detecting these features or deceptive for hiding them. There's also the national security dimension. If Oumuamua represents advanced technology that could potentially be studied, understood, or even retrieved, That technology has enormous strategic value. The nation that makes first contact, establishes communication, or gains access to Oumuamua systems would possess a massive technological advantage. From this perspective, NASA's silence might be part of strategy to avoid revealing the full extent of American intelligence about Oumuamua. By saying nothing, they don't confirm what they know, don't acknowledge capabilities that China revealed, and maintain flexibility for classified response options. But perhaps the most concerning explanation for NASA's silence, they're just as confused as everyone else. Maybe NASA doesn't have good answers for what China revealed. Maybe their own analysis is incomplete or contradictory. Maybe they're staying quiet because they genuinely don't know what Oumuamua is or what it's doing, and admitting that uncertainty would be worse than saying nothing. China's release of Oumuamua data has triggered responses from nations and space agencies worldwide. And the picture emerging suggests a planet deeply divided about how to handle this situation. Multiple countries have upgraded their space surveillance capabilities specifically to track Oumuamua independently. India announced accelerated deployment of new tracking stations. Australia is coordinating with Asian partners to create a Southern Hemisphere observation network. Even smaller nations are dedicating resources to Oumuamua monitoring, unwilling to rely solely on NASA or Chinese data. The European Space Agency held emergency consultations with member nations about coordinating a unified European response. The discussions reportedly focused on whether to align with NASA's
In a changing world, full of challenges and opportunities, the most
scientific organizations are also split. Some astronomy groups have called for complete transparency about all Oumuamua observations, arguing the public deserves full disclosure about what might be first contact with alien intelligence. Others support NASA's cautious approach, warning that premature or incomplete information could cause unnecessary panic. China just released data that NASA has been hiding for months, and what it reveals about Oumuamua will change everything you thought you knew about this mysterious object. While NASA keeps telling us Oumuamua is just an unusual interstellar comet passing through, China's National Space Administration just dropped a bombshell. Detailed tracking data showing Oumuamua doing things that comets simply cannot do. Propulsion burns, controlled navigation, systematic course corrections, and electromagnetic transmissions with structure far too complex to be natural. This isn't theory or speculation. This is hard evidence from advanced space tracking networks. Evidence that directly contradicts everything NASA has been saying publicly about Oumuamua. The Chinese data shows Oumuamua slowing down and speeding up on command. It shows lateral movements that require engines, not just gravitational drift. It shows the object making 17 separate course corrections over 2 weeks, each one precisely timed and executed. And most shocking of all, it shows Oumuamua deliberately altering its trajectory to bring itself closer to Earth than its original path. NASA has known about these capabilities for months. They track the same maneuvers. Their telescopes have captured the same evidence. But instead of sharing this information,
Hey, Lobo, good to see
they've
you,
stayed
mate.
silent, publishing reassuring statements about a natural visitor while their classified data tells a very different story.
No, you weren't, Lobo. You're okay, mate.
Before we break down the shocking capabilities China just exposed and why NASA has been hiding them, hit that like button and subscribe, because what you're about to learn about Oumuamua will completely shatter the official narrative. China's release of this data wasn't just scientific transparency.
No, you made us laugh, mate. We like you. You don't have to apologize.
It was a direct challenge to NASA's cover-up. And the evidence they provided proves that Oumuamua is far more than just a space rock. It's something with technology, intelligence, and a specific destination in mind, Earth. China's space tracking network has been monitoring Oumuamua just as closely as NASA, maybe even more closely. And what their telescopes captured over the past weeks reveals capabilities that transform Oumuamua from an astronomical curiosity into something far more significant. The Chinese observations show Oumuamua performing velocity changes that natural objects cannot execute. One documented sequence, Oumuamua decelerated by 5,000 miles per hour over a 12-hour period. 3 days later, it accelerated back to its original velocity. That's not
Wow.
gravitational influence or solar wind effects. That's powered flight. An orbital mechanics specialist who reviewed the Chinese data explained the significance. When you see velocity changes like this
Lobo, this is crazy. We got a mothership in our solar system.
with these
Doggy,
specific
come
acceleration
here.
profiles,
Come on.
you're looking at thrust engines firing to control propulsion. Natural space objects don't slow down or speed up on command. This is technology, not geology. The Chinese tracking stations also captured Oumuamua making lateral course corrections, sideways
Wow.
movements that adjust its trajectory without changing overall velocity. These maneuvers require thrust vectoring, the ability to direct engine power in specific directions. It's exactly what spacecraft do when making precise navigational adjustments. Over a 2-week observation period, China documented Oumuamua
Wow.
making 17 distinct course corrections, each one precisely timed and executed to alter the object's path through space. The pattern suggests active navigation toward a specific destination rather than passive drift through the solar system. But the propulsion evidence is just the beginning.
Lobo, they reckon by Christmas you'll be able to see it. I'm pretty sure that's what they say. That's Atlas, 3i Atlas, not this one.
China's radio telescope arrays captured detailed recordings of electromagnetic transmissions from Oumuamua that reveal complexity far beyond anything NASA has publicly acknowledged. The signals aren't random noise or simple pulses. They're structured communications using multiple frequency bands showing characteristics of advanced data transmission, modulation patterns, error correction codes, and what appears to be packet-based information transfer similar to how our own digital communications work. One particularly striking finding: the Chinese data shows Oumuamua's transmissions adapting based on environmental conditions. When solar radiation increases, the broadcast frequencies shift to avoid interference. When Oumuamua moves behind the sun from Earth's perspective, the transmission power increases to maintain signal strength. That's not automated response, that's intelligent adaptation. Beyond tracking and signals data, China released high-resolution imagery of Oumuamua that reveals surface features unlike anything seen on natural space objects. The Chinese space-based telescopes captured Oumuamua from multiple angles as it rotated, creating detailed three-dimensional maps of its structure. What those maps show has sparked intense debate in the astronomical community. Oumuamua's surface displays geometric patterns, areas with regular spacing, precise angles, and symmetrical arrangements that look extremely unlikely to form through natural processes. One region shows what appears to be a grid of rectangular.
They're trying to say it's a comet, but it looks like a mothership. Hi, Di, good to see you.
Structures, each approximately
Breakfast convenient. All Carmen's granola.
imagery describe the anomaly. Natural geological processes create irregular features, random crater impacts, uneven weathering, chaotic fracturing. What we're seeing on Oumuamua are ordered patterns, regularity, precision. Those characteristics suggest artificial construction rather than natural formation. Another striking feature captured in the Chinese images: Oumuamua appears to have distinct sections with different surface properties. Some areas are highly reflective, almost mirror-like. Other regions are matte and dark. The boundaries between these sections are sharp and linear, not the gradual transitions you'd expect from natural material variations. Most intriguing are the thermal observations. Chinese infrared telescopes detected heat sources on Oumuamua's surface that don't correlate with solar heating patterns. Some areas are warmer than they should be based on sun exposure, suggesting internal heat generation. That implies active power systems operating
Wow.
inside the object. The thermal signatures also show regular cycling, periods of increased heat followed by cooling, then heating again in predictable patterns. One area pulses with a heat signature that cycles
Wow.
every 4.7 hours with clock-like precision. Natural thermal processes don't maintain that kind of regularity. China's spectroscopic analysis.
Diane, Indonesia's got the volcano Krakatoa. It blew in the 1880s, and the whole world went into a cold climate. There's a lot of famine, and that's in Indonesia as well.
Adds another layer of mystery. The composition readings show materials that are extremely rare in natural space objects, specific alloy combinations that require precise temperature control and manufacturing processes to create elements in concentrations that don't match any known asteroid or comet profiles. The data reveals significant quantities of titanium, vanadium, and rare earth
Die.
elements in configurations that suggest they were deliberately combined rather than naturally formed. These are the kinds of material signatures you'd expect from advanced manufacturing, not from a primordial chunk of ice and rock. Perhaps the most damning evidence in China's release concerns.
See, Lobo, you weren't that bad last night at all. We've been worse than that when we take the mickey out of each other.
Oumuamua's trajectory, the path it's taking through our solar system. And this is where things get truly unsettling. NASA's official trajectory data shows Oumuamua following a hyperbolic orbit, coming in from interstellar space, swinging past the sun, and heading back out. A simple one-time visit from a traveler passing through. But China's tracking data tells a completely different story. The Chinese observations show Oumuamua making deliberate course adjustments that have systematically altered its path. These aren't minor gravitational perturbations. These are substantial trajectory modifications that have changed where Oumuamua is heading. An aerospace analyst examining the Chinese trajectory calculations
Yeah, I agree,
explained the
Di.
implications. Based on Oumuamua's original approach vector, it should have passed through the inner solar system and departed. But the course corrections documented in China's data have bent that trajectory significantly. Oumuamua is no longer on an escape path.
Lobo, we think the ETs, we think they're fallen angels or demons. They're the sons of perdition.
It's maneuvering into a trajectory that keeps it
They're not on our side. Why do they hide so long if they're on our side?
in the inner solar system. The data shows Oumuamua making specific adjustments at key points, burning engines when gravitational assist from planets would maximize the efficiency of each maneuver. This is exactly what spacecraft mission planners do when designing fuel-efficient trajectories, sophisticated orbital mechanics being executed in real time. Most concerning, the modified trajectory brings Oumuamua much closer to Earth than its original path would have. China's calculations project Oumuamua passing within 3 million miles of our planet, less than 13 times the
Yeah,
distance.
exactly, Di.
From an astronomical perspective, that's uncomfortably close. But here's what really has analysts worried. Oumuamua's current trajectory has it approaching Earth from a specific angle that would make it extremely difficult to observe from ground-based telescopes during the closest approach.
Second coming. You sound more Christian every day, Lobo.
Geometry positions Oumuamua in a location where it would be visible primarily from space-based assets in a narrow band of Earth's surface. A military space analyst described this positioning as suspicious. If you wanted to approach Earth while minimizing observation opportunities, while reducing the number of tracking stations that could monitor you, you choose almost exactly this trajectory. It's either an incredible coincidence or it's deliberate planning by whatever controls Oumuamua. The Chinese data also shows Oumuamua performing what's called orbital reconnaissance, flying past targets at distances and angles optimal for detailed observation. Oumuamua made these kinds of passes near Mars, gathering data about the planet's composition, atmosphere, and surface features. The same pattern appears to be setting up for Earth. China's trajectory projections show multiple possible futures for Oumuamua after its Earth approach. Some paths show it continuing deeper into the solar system. Others show it using Earth's gravity to modify course towards specific destinations. The asteroid belt.
Di, this was the one before AI Atlas. This I never knew about this one. Muma or something it's called.
Jupiter's moons, or even back toward Mars. But several of China's projections
Good news,
show something
Lobo.
that NASA has never publicly discussed. The possibility of Oumuamua inserting itself into orbit around Earth. The calculations show it's entirely possible given Oumuamua's demonstrated propulsion capabilities and current trajectory. Oumuamua could, if it chose to, park itself in Earth orbit and stay there indefinitely. China's radio telescope data reveals something NASA has barely acknowledged. Oumuamua isn't just broadcasting randomly into space. It's attempting to communicate. And the sophistication of those attempts suggests intelligence that understands communication theory and information encoding.
Rewrite the rules of living with Australian Unity's home health and care services.
Early broadcasts were simple mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric ratios, basic constants that any technological civilization would recognize. But as weeks passed, the transmissions became more complex. Recent signals captured by China's arrays include what appears to be encoded imagery, data patterns that, when processed through various decoding algorithms, might represent visual information. Some researchers believe these could be star charts showing Oumuamua's point of origin. Others think they might be diagrams explaining Oumuamua's purpose or capabilities. A communications engineer analyzing the Chinese data described the sophistication. These transmissions use layered encoding, multiple types of information packed into the same signal. There are clearly identifiable header sequences that mark the beginning of data packets. There are error correction codes that would allow reconstruction of information even if parts of the signal are lost. This is professional-grade communication engineering. What makes this particularly intriguing is that Oumuamua's signals show adaptation. When China's radio telescopes transmitted experimental responses toward Oumuamua, the object's subsequent broadcasts incorporated elements from those transmissions. Oumuamua is listening, processing what it receives, and adjusting its messages accordingly. This represents interactive communication, not just blind broadcasting. Oumuamua appears to be trying to establish a dialogue, testing different approaches, modifying its strategy based on whether it receives responses. That's behavior consistent with intelligence actively seeking contact. The Chinese data also reveals that Oumuamua's transmissions aren't omnidirectional. They're beamed, focused broadcasts aimed at specific targets. Some transmissions are directed toward Earth, others aimed toward locations in deep space, possibly communicating with origin points or other objects we haven't detected yet. Most intriguingly, China captured Oumuamua sending focused transmissions toward specific Earth locations, not just toward the planet generally, but toward particular coordinates on the surface. These targeted beams were aimed at major population centers, significant geographical features, and interestingly, toward the locations of large radio telescope arrays. It's as if Oumuamua knows where our communication facilities are located and is specifically trying to get their attention, either through remarkable detection of our electromagnetic emissions or through prior mapping of Earth's infrastructure. Oumuamua has identified where humans might be listening and is directing messages to those locations. China's release of this data puts NASA in an
I tried to spell nuclear, but I forgot how to spell it.
impossible position, and their continued silence speaks volumes about what they know.
Yeah, Lobo, that question
When
popped
another
up
major-
not long ago, actually. That's how come I know the answer.
Your space agency publicly contradicts your official narrative with hard evidence. Standard
Actually, you won't like this. I'm pretty sure Vast told us why the sun does that with no oxygen.
protocol is to
I know you tease Vast, but he is pretty well widely read, if you know what I mean.
respond. You either refute the claims with your own data, acknowledge the discrepancies and explain them, or engage in diplomatic channels to reconcile the differences. NASA has done none of these things. No press conference addressing China's findings. No technical paper challenging their methodology. No statement explaining why Chinese observations would differ so dramatically from American data. Just silence. A former NASA public affairs specialist explained what this silence likely means. NASA doesn't deny China's findings because they can't. Their own classified tracking data probably shows the same things China just released.
Okay, guys, that's Lupin. It's already played that.
The epic Black Friday sale is on now. Chase up to 50% off epic gear. Reel in a Samaki t-shirt for $49.99 and get a bonus optic rod. How's that value?
Wow.
On now. BTF and fun. Hey!
At 11:36 Coordinated Universal Time.
Wow, about Iran, Diane. Wow. They're going to evacuate the capital. Wow.
On October the 29th, 2025,
The blessings of Allah.
3I Atlas reached perihelion, the closest point to the Sun. Space weather alerts rippled out as solar winds streamed from the open magnetic field lines of the hull toward Earth. Satellites switched to safe mode. Power grid operators watched for voltage drops. In the Arctic, auroras lit the sky long before midnight. Timing.
Lobo, the water's run dry in the capital of Iran, and they're thinking of evacuating millions of people. I don't know how many, probably millions from the capital.
Matters. The odds of a butterfly-shaped coronal hole this size appearing within a week of an interstellar object reaching perihelion are, according to a statistical review by Dr. Luis Martinez at the University of Texas at Austin, less than 1 in 1,000 years. NASA's SDO team described the event as a statistical anomaly that demands further investigation. In more than 50 years of solar and cometary records, no previous overlap like this has been found. Standard heliophysics holds that coronal holes come from the Sun's internal magnetic field. Outside influences, comets, asteroids, even passing planets, are usually far too small to matter. The Sun outweighs a comet by a billion times. Still, the calendar proximity is hard to ignore. Archive data from SDO, SOHO, and other solar observatories confirm the sequence. The butterfly hole appeared in full on October the 22nd, 2025. 3I Atlas, with an 11-kilometer nucleus and an estimated mass of 44 billion tons, reached perihelion 7 days later. Teams worldwide tracked both events in real time, with timestamps pulled from instrument headers and orbital databases. The puzzle is not the basic physics, at least not yet. The puzzle is the numbers. Butterfly-shaped holes like this show up less than once per solar cycle. Interstellar objects this size and speed are even rarer. The overlap, documented down to the minute, has left researchers asking if this was cosmic chance or something else. For now, the only certainty is the raw data. A giant hole opened in the Sun, perfectly timed with the flyby of a visitor from another star. That timing is the mystery scientists will keep returning to. Coronal holes are among the most important features on the Sun for anyone tracking space weather. Picture the Sun's surface as a tangled field of invisible magnetic lines. Most of the time, these lines loop and twist, trapping hot plasma and creating bright, active regions. But in certain spots, coronal holes, those magnetic lines open straight out into space. This opening acts like a vent. It lets high-speed streams of charged particles escape the Sun's grip. They race across the solar system. These regions look dark in extreme ultraviolet images because they are cooler and less dense than their surroundings. They are not empty. They are missing the thick, glowing plasma that fills the rest of the corona. Coronal holes can last for weeks or even months. Sometimes they stretch across a quarter of the Sun's face. Their edges are often ragged. The basic physics stays the same. Open magnetic field lines mean a direct path for solar wind to flow outward. Think of the Sun as a giant sprinkler. Most of the time, the spray is soft and scattered. When a coronal hole opens, the flow tightens. It is like someone pulled out the nozzle and turned the pressure up. The solar wind blasts out in a focused stream, moving at speeds up to 800 kilometers per second. That is fast enough to reach Earth in just a few days. These high-speed streams can buffet Earth's magnetic field, spark auroras, disrupt satellites, and cause voltage swings in power grids. The science behind these holes is well established. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory and other missions have tracked their appearance and disappearance for over a decade. Open magnetic field lines are mapped by measuring the sun's surface magnetism. Scientists then extrapolate how those lines stretch into space. When a coronal hole faces Earth, scientists expect a surge in solar wind and a higher risk of geomagnetic storms. Despite their effects, coronal holes are a routine part of the solar cycle. They tend to form more often near the sun's poles during solar minimum. Large holes can open anywhere, anytime, depending on how the magnetic fields rearrange. Most are modest in size, but the really big ones can span hundreds of thousands of kilometers. One example is the butterfly-shaped hole in this story. The fundamental takeaway is simple. Coronal holes are solar escape hatches. They allow the sun's charged particles to pour into space, shaping the solar wind. They drive the space weather that reaches Earth. When a hole opens on a massive scale, it is like the sun turning a fire hose toward the planets. That is why scientists and engineers around the world pay close attention. 50 years of solar records reveal something unprecedented. Not once has a butterfly-shaped coronal hole this large appeared within days of an interstellar object's closest solar pass. That conclusion comes from a statistical preprint circulating among solar physicists. The paper combed through every available NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory archive, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory archive, and ground
Maybe it's Chronicles of Riddick, Lobo. That's what I'm thinking.
based archives from the last half century. The lead author at UT Austin ran the numbers and found odds that are astonishingly low. The calculation uses the observed frequency of large, geometrically distinct coronal holes and the rare appearance of interstellar objects trackable inside 1.5 astronomical units of the Sun. Only 3 such interstellar objects have been confirmed since modern surveys began. The authors say the overlap of a massive butterfly-shaped coronal hole and an interstellar perihelion within a single 10-day window is less than 1 in 1,000 years. The analysis matched exact timestamps from NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory with perihelion data from JPL Horizons. The butterfly hole was fully visible at 8:02 and 13 seconds coordinated universal time on October the 22nd, 2025. 7 days later, at 11:36 coordinated universal time on October the 29th, 3I Atlas reached its closest approach. No previous event in the record comes close in shape, size, or timing. The preprint reports a probability of 0.04%, with a confidence range as high as 0.15%. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reviewed the analysis and found it notable, since butterfly geometry is almost never seen and has not been seen in step with an interstellar visitor. The statistical argument is simple. If coronal holes and interstellar objects appear randomly, this overlap should be a once-in-a-millennium fluke. Yet the alignment is documented in high-resolution imagery and orbital logs. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory team described the event as a statistical anomaly that deserves further investigation. The European Space Agency Solar Orbiter team reported similar findings and noted a
Diane, early next month, Australian kids can't get on YouTube on their own. They can't get on any social media on their own. I think it's if you're under 16. So they're limiting their freedom of speech, but they got good reasons to do so because kids do get influenced bad by YouTube and TikTok and all that.
lack of any prior correlation in their data sets. For now, the scientific community is split. Some researchers favour pure coincidence.
Yeah.
Others suggest the timing is statistically improbable and worth deeper study. Most mainstream solar physicists, including teams at NASA.
Yeah, Lobo, Vast is smart. I don't agree with him on his cloning stuff. It's but I do know there's cloning, but I don't think it's the extent he says. But Lobo, he does know his stuff, Vast does,
And Noah
as far as we can tell.
lean toward randomness. They note there is no known mechanism linking an interstellar object to coronal hole formation. Still, the RE rarity of this overlap has sparked debate, new research proposals, and wider public curiosity.
Yeah, Diane, don't forget we're the test case for the New World Order.
As the preprint awaits peer review, one thing is clear. The numbers behind this alignment are as remarkable as the images themselves, and they demand more systematic mining of historical
They should look inside the hole and see what they can see.
archives and better modelling of solar and interstellar interactions.
This Kellogg's high protein granola actually has 5 health stars. Real nourishment for real.
Introducing MIQ Sigma, AI-powered advertising technology. Sigma isn't just another AI tool.
The question of cause lingers in every research lab and conference call. Could an object the size of 3I Atlas, with its 44 billion tons of mass, actually nudge the sun's magnetic machinery? Tidal theories
Not nudged it, blew a hole in it.
get the first look. In planetary science, tidal forces from a passing body can stretch or distort another. But the math here is unforgiving. The sun outweighs 3I Atlas by more than a billion times. Even at closest approach, the comet's gravitational pull is so slight it is lost in the noise of the sun's shifting plasma. Dr. Luis Martinez ran the original probability calculations. He argues tidal effects, while tiny, should not be dismissed without checking the numbers. He points to the unique combination of mass and trajectory, an interstellar object this large and this close tracked in real time. His group adapted models from planetary tides, scaling them up for the sun's environment. The result is clear. Predicted tidal accelerations from 3I Atlas are still millions of times weaker than the pressures and forces.
And Diane, I'm pretty sure Canada just chucked in with that as well.
Already at
Canada's a test case as well.
play in the corona. That leaves the door open for more exotic ideas. Some researchers turn to electromagnetic coupling. The sun is a giant ball of charged gas threaded with magnetic fields. If 3I Atlas carried a strong electric charge or a magnetic field of its own, could it interact with the solar plasma? The idea is not entirely out of left field. Comets develop ion tails, and their comas can pick up electric charge as they move through the solar wind. A few theorists propose a scenario under the right conditions. A massive, fast-moving object could set up a current. It could also induce local changes in the sun's magnetic topology. But here too, the evidence is thin. No direct measurements show 3I Atlas carrying anything close to the charge or field strength needed. Most knowledge comes from models of smaller comets, which interact with the solar wind on a scale that barely registers against the background. Dr. Nikki Weil, a leading solar physicist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, has addressed these claims head-on. Her team's work is rooted in decades of heliophysics data. It points to the same conclusion. Coronal holes are a product of the sun's internal magnetic field. They are shaped by processes deep within the solar interior, not by passing visitors, no matter how large or unusual. Weil's position is echoed across mainstream heliophysics. The sun's own complexity, its tangled magnetic fields, its cycles and eruptions, overwhelms any possible outside influence from objects like 3I Atlas. In public talks and published work, she states there is no evidence, theoretical or observational, for comets or asteroids triggering coronal holes. Still, the The timing keeps the speculation alive. The event has become a test case for the limits of current models.
Yeah.
Dr. Martinez's group is calling for new instrument tests. They want searches for subtle plasma signatures, magnetic ripples.
Do you remember early this year when my modem broke down? I had to get a new modem. It took me 4 days. I had nothing to do. I was so bored, I couldn't get on the net. I watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix and things like that.
Or particle flows that might hint at something missed. The challenge is clear. Any real effect would need to stand out against the sun's natural variability. So far, nothing does. The debate now turns on data. Upcoming observations must catch even the faintest sign of interaction, or the numbers will confirm what mainstream physics already predicts. For now, the only thing everyone agrees on is the need for more evidence. Without it, the butterfly hole and 3i Atlas remain cosmic neighbours, not cause and effect. Solar science depends on a global web of instruments, each capturing a different piece of the sun's restless activity. At the heart of that network is NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, known as SDO. It delivers full disk images of the sun every 12 seconds. Its atmospheric imaging assembly tracks ultraviolet light from the corona. It maps the evolution of features like the butterfly-shaped hole in extraordinary detail. Its helioseismic and magnetic imager records the sun's magnetic field frame by frame. That lets researchers follow the opening and closing of magnetic pathways that drive solar wind. But SDO is not working alone. The Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, known as SOHO, sits 1 million miles sunward of Earth at the L1 Lagrange point. SOHO's LASCO coronagraphs block the sun's glare and reveal faint structures in the outer corona.
Do you remember they used to say phones might give you brain tumours? Mobile phones?
It also tracks solar wind streams as they expand into space. That vantage was crucial during the days when 3i Atlas passed behind the sun from Earth's view. SOHO monitored the evolving coronal hole and the comet's trajectory. For real-time solar wind and magnetic field data, scientists turned to ACE and DSCOVR. These spacecraft are also stationed at L1 Lagrange point. They sample the solar wind every minute, measuring particle speed, density, and magnetic orientation.
Okay, I played them two to show the science behind Atlas. Now let's see what this guy's got to say. This guy's the expert. I don't know if he's lying or not.
To the inner solar system once per 10,000 years.
Do you think NASA is hiding information from the public?
We are seeing a delay by 43 days in the release of images that were taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. There was a camera called HiRISE, which is 0.5 meter in diameter and should have provided us with the best resolution image of 3i Atlas, this interstellar visitor. I think it's a new opportunity. In fact, I was on vacation a couple of days later because of the 4th of July. And I told my wife I have to write this paper where I calculated how much material we expect in interstellar space per unit volume and show that we shouldn't expect the delivery of such a giant object.
Okay, this is only a day old, guys.
Once per decade. It should arrive to the inner solar system once per 10,000 years or longer. So there is just not enough material out there, and so it's very surprising. And then it turns out that on that paper, actually, when I submitted it, the editor accepted it for publication within a week after the object was discovered. But the editor insisted that I remove a sentence at the end of the paper. And I basically said in that sentence, either the object is actually much smaller than we think, maybe less than a kilometer
in size, or it might have targeted the inner solar system. It should be rare, but then maybe on purpose it arrived. It's not just a random rock on a random trajectory. And so the editor said, then I will not accept it for publication unless you remove that sentence. And I thought to myself, well, we haven't evolved much since the days of the Vatican, banning Galileo, putting him in house arrest for saying something that they regard as heresy. I mean, this editor was basically using his power just to force me to remove one sentence out of a whole paper. Like, what is the big deal? It's because I'm a rebel, I wrote a full paper following that on the technological option, and that one was published after peer review in a different journal. But the same editor went to the New York Post and said it's nonsense on stilts to consider the technological origin. And I thought it's completely inappropriate, and I still think so. And this editor is also...
If it wasn't true, why would the editor even bother?
Can you keep an eye on the water? Mika is so thirsty. She's drinking the shower water.
Oh, okay.
I've just put the bowl down for her, and
she's popularizing science in the UK, and he was joined by Brian Cox recently that said that it's nonsense, and also Neil deGrasse Tyson said it's most likely a comet, and the acting.
How do you explain that?
So I explain it very, very simply. These people are not, the Brian Cox and Neil deGrasse Tyson are not practicing science. They're just talking about it. It's like a soccer match where you have players in the field and there are commentators, and obviously the commentators want to be popular, so they say whatever is popular within the audience, and so they feel the direction of the wind. Okay, so they realize, many of the people in the mainstream of science think that it's a comet. I would say that it's a comet. That's basically how they operate. Now, I'm a player in the field, and I look at the evidence and I make my judgment and I write scientific papers on the object. So the main difference between me and them is that I can score a goal, they cannot, because they want to be liked. That's the way to understand them. And the problem with wanting to be liked is that you're not close to the truth.
Yeah.
And so let me give you an example. There is the dominant theme in theoretical physics over the past 50 years has been string theory, which basically assumes that there are extraspatial dimensions. And we have not seen any evidence for that. Moreover, the theory itself has different versions, and we don't know which one is correct. Moreover, there was never an experimental test, and there is no experimental test of any of these versions in the foreseeable future, so they cannot come up with a way of testing the idea. Nevertheless, it dominates the landscape of theoretical physics, and all the practitioners are doing intellectual or mathematical gymnastics to impress each other. They give each other honors, awards, and so forth, but this is completely speculative. There is no direct evidence for the reality of string theory describing physics. The physical reality that we live in may have nothing to do with string theory. Nevertheless, for 50 years, you have the mainstream doing that. I don't see Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson saying anything negative about string theory. It's completely speculative. So if they have this gut feeling that they should protect science as always telling the truth to the public about things.
He looks like a Jew to me.
That were verified.
Not him, the guy interviewing him.
Nothing speculative should be considered until it's verified. If that was their motivation, they would say something about string theory. They haven't said it. Why? Because there is a whole community doing it. They want to be popular. Therefore, they will never go against the wind. They will never say anything. And so they just act to represent whatever they see is popular in the environment. They have nothing to do with the truth. And therefore, whatever they say is irrelevant. Okay, so I completely ignore these people because they haven't written a scientific paper in the last decade. Who cares about what they say? They just comment, and it's sort of like an echo of what they hear, and they just put it out. And they are influencers. They have a lot of followers. So they cultivate a culture where people say things that are not necessarily true just because they're popular. Who cares? That's not what science is about. I mean, the idea of Galileo was not popular at the time, but the church in 1992 said Galileo was right. After centuries, 350 years after he died, they admitted he was right. Now, what does it show you? That popularity among humans have nothing to do with the truth. Whether the earth moves around the sun or not has nothing to do with what the Pope said. And in fact, the earth moved 4.5 billion times around the sun before the Vatican even existed. So just imagine the earth going around and around 4.5 billion times, around, 4.5 billion times. And then comes the Vatican and says the sun moves around the earth. Who cares? The earth continues to move around the sun. So the fact that something is popular or something is liked on social media, or there is a mainstream within particle physics talking about extra dimensions, has nothing to do with the validity of that.
That guy from Germany with the funny little mo, he was very popular once upon a time. Look where he is now.
Idea, maybe extra dimensions do not exist. You haven't verified it experimentally. We don't even have an idea for an experiment in the future that will test it. And so the fact that it's popular is irrelevant. I mean, it's good for mathematics, but may have nothing to do with the physical reality that we live in. I mean, also think about quantum mechanics. Nobody expected it. It came as a shock. And Albert Einstein had a problem with it. And then Niels Bohr, and I visited the Niels Bohr Institute just a few months ago, Niels Bohr said, no, it's a different way to think about reality. And Einstein resisted that. And Niels Bohr was right. So, here is another situation where it was popular to
they are tough, aren't they, Lobo?
think like Einstein, and then comes evidence for a completely different conception of reality. And all the gadgets that we use, this microphone, the cameras, are all based on understanding of quantum mechanics. It's all electronics, quantum mechanics. So we are using a theory, quantum mechanics, that was initially beyond the horizon of the imagination of the very best scientists back then. And so whatever physical reality is has nothing to do with popularity among humans. I don't care what people say. That's completely irrelevant. I don't have any footprint on social media. I don't care what Brian Cox said. It's completely irrelevant. He's not even practicing science, so who cares? My point is, we should look at the evidence. If there are anomalies, we should try to explain them. And it's possible that all the ideas that were contemplated in the past, missed the point. Now, let me just say one more thing. Comet experts, people who claim that they are experts, they are self-declared experts, okay? Comet experts are just like AI systems in the sense that whatever AI systems, artificial intelligence systems are saying, depends on their training data set. You just feed them with some data set, and then they use that to say something. Now, the training data set of Comet experts is solar system comets. That's what they've seen in the past. So it's always about icy rocks. Okay, so they are familiar with icy rocks. Anything they see in the sky, they call it an icy rock. On January 2nd, there was a near-Earth object that was classified as an asteroid by the Minor Planet Center. And then a day later, they realized, oh, sorry, this one moves along the path of the Tesla Roadster car that was launched by SpaceX. So it's actually a car, it's not a rock. So sorry, they took it out of the catalog. Yeah. And my point is, we have other objects that we launch to space. These are technological objects. All I'm asking is, let's take these objects and add them to the training data set of Comet experts. Why? Because the first interstellar object was Oumuamua, didn't have any cometary features. There was no dust, no gas around it, didn't evaporate, no tail. The experts decided, last year to call it a dark comet, meaning an object that has non-gravitational acceleration, and you expect from a comet that if it evaporates, but you see no sign of evaporation. So you call it a dark comet, which is an oxymoron. You would call a spacecraft a dark comet because it accelerates without any cometary evaporation. So these people do not have in their training data set technological objects. That's the problem. And all I'm saying is just add them to your vocabulary. What's the problem? We launched technological objects. when objects arrive into the solar system and look weird, we should consider the possibility. That sounds to me like common sense.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to go into the 3i Atlas with current events, and first of all, the explanation for that you are giving is that it's alien tech. Am I correct?
No, I'm saying most likely it's a comet of a type that we've never seen before. But I'm saying it could be a technological object because it has some unusual features. Most recently, a lot of jets were seen coming from it, and these could be thrusters, for example, because some of the jets are pointing towards the sun, some away from the sun. Very, very different behavior than the comets we're used to. But at any event, my point is that we must consider this possibility because of the huge implications to humanity.
Yes.
This is called the Black Swan event. I always give the example of October 7th because the intelligence agencies were dismissing the possibility of an attack. And, because of that, they didn't notice the anomalies in the data. And whereas for science that deals with, subjects that have no implications to Earth, like, for example, you consider a galaxy billions of light years away, no implications to our daily life. That's the right approach. You say, at the 99% confidence, I think this galaxy is of this type and so forth. If you are wrong, nothing bad happens. However, when you have a visitor to your backyard that could be a potential threat to humanity, even if 1% if it has some anomalies that make it a potential technological object at 1% confidence, you must take it seriously. Because the implications are huge. You multiply small probability by huge implications, you must take it, meaning you have to collect as much data as possible, and you shouldn't ridicule the discussion. This is a completely new reality that we didn't face in the past, and the scientists are slow to understand that.
Okay, so you have given an explanation that I really wanted to go into even later about Galileo Galilei and the way that the scientific approach has been attacked.
Yeah, he's Jewish. Look at his nose. He's definitely Jewish.
Throughout
history.
Yeah, many
There
times.
is nothing new.
Yeah, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
So, but I want to stay on the on 3i Atlas because I think the scientific communities, I don't know if they know what it is when they're speaking about it.
Right. So the less you know,
also the public.
The less you know about the object, the easier it is for you to say, "Oh, it's probably just a comet."
Yeah.
And
so what people don't know about it.
Yeah. So the anomalies of this object. First, I mentioned the size. If it ends up being very big, very unusual, because you would expect smaller objects first, a lot of them. But the second thing is that it moves in the plane of the planets around the sun. This is called the ecliptic plane. And it's within 5 degrees of the orbital plane of the Earth around the sun. And the chance of that happening at random, we did simulations with my student where we launched interstellar objects from stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and you see them coming from all directions relative to the solar system. And the chance of finding one that is exactly aligned with the ecliptic plane of the planets around the sun is 1 in 500. And this is the third object from interstellar space. So, it's less than 1% chance that it would be aligned like that. Mm-hmm. But if it's on a reconnaissance mission, it would like to spend as much time as possible near the planet. So that's what it's doing. It came close to Mars. It will come close to Jupiter. Mm-hmm. So that's the second anomaly. And then, there are many others. For example, it had a glow in the direction of the sun. It's called an anti-tail. Whereas usually dust and gas get pushed away from the sun by the solar radiation and the solar wind.
Yeah. Isn't it moving incredibly fast as well?
It's also, moving faster than previous ones, but not unheard of for stars.
What of all the anomalies? They are saying that to you that it's probably someone sent it.
No, so I'm saying it's unlikely to have this orbit, and the critics are saying, but rare things do happen sometimes.
Oh, this is the explanation?
Well, that's for this one. Someone tried to say, maybe if it comes from the disk of the Milky Way galaxy, you would expect it to be aligned with the plane of the planets. No, the two planes are misaligned by 60 degrees. That's a big angle.
Yeah.
And in fact, we see the other interstellar objects coming at some large angles. That means they are spending a very short amount of time near the planets. This one, by the way, is a great gift because it's bright, it's big, but it's also moving in the plane of the planet. So we have all the observatories on Earth and elsewhere. We have orbiters around Mars. We have an orbiter around Jupiter. So there are lots of spacecraft that monitor it, as well as telescopes. So it gives us an excellent opportunity. If we could anticipate it, we would have potentially invested in an interceptor that would have visited it.
Yeah, Elon Musk said recently that even if it's like an attack, we are not prepared for something like that at all. Yeah,
not at all, because that's my main point, that we have not thought about it. I mean, the Congress tasked NASA in 2005 to find all objects bigger than a football field, or more than 90% of them, that may collide with Earth, that come close to Earth. And so that's why these survey telescopes like Pan-STARRS in Hawaii, or the Rubin Observatory now, or Atlas, were constructed in order to find near-Earth objects. And in the process of surveying the sky, they found the interstellar objects. And so it's not a coincidence that we are now finding those, but it's for the wrong reason. We were, in the past, worried about rocks colliding with Earth because that's what killed the dinosaurs. An asteroid the size of Manhattan Island that 66 million years ago created a catastrophe. And so we don't want even a smaller catastrophe,
right?
Yeah, so we want to deflect objects that may be of a risk. So, and so NASA has this plan to deflect them, for example, by colliding a spacecraft with the incoming object. You just need to deflect it a little bit as long as it's far away, so it will miss the Earth. So we can do something about it. But what do you do about alien technology? That's much more complicated because it may actually maneuver, or you just cannot forecast the intent of that. And that was never contemplated. There is no protocol, no discussion about it. And I submitted a white paper along with two Israelis, Omer Eldadi and Gershon Tenenbaum, to the United Nations as well as the International Astronomical Union, to encourage them to establish a committee or an organization that would coordinate observations of interstellar objects in the future and alert policymakers about those that look potentially technological. I invented a scale between 0 and 10, where 0 is natural objects and 10 might, alien technologies that are a threat to humanity. This is now called the Loeb scale, and I gave Oumuamua and 3i Atlas, for different reasons, a rank of 4 on that scale. But in the future, I think it's really important to attend to this. But nobody would pay attention. I'm not dreaming. I mean, I realize that only when we have a real encounter beyond any doubt with a technological object from another civilization, only after that encounter, our politicians and the financial sector would respond to that. And let's hope that we would survive the first encounter. Yeah. That's the issue.
Yeah.
And I think it's completely reasonable to be aware of that potential risk.
Yeah.
And I just had a television interview on Fox News, and I was told that it's likely that the President Trump was informed about 3i Atlas, and
for those reasons, because it probably could be something that is a threat.
So the point of view of NASA right now, and maybe they are saying it to the public to prevent any panic, is that this is definitely a comet. That's what they say. And I'm just saying, let's, indeed, it's most likely to be a comet, but let's just collect as much data as possible about it. So my point is, of course, the president needs to be aware of anything that looks unusual heading our way, because for a simple reason that, the public would lose confidence in governments if there is some kind of a threat from the sky, and the financial markets will react. So just like in any other situation which poses a risk, we need to contemplate, have some protocol of how to respond to it, how to convey the message.
Yeah.
So I hope this will be attended to before we actually have a definite visit. But as of now, it never happened.
Yeah. How confident are you that if we had a visitor, it would be peaceful versus violent?
Not at all. I mean, so even though I met my wife on a blind date, this is a blind date of interstellar proportions, and you can have a situation like the Trojan horse, where something looks completely innocent, and then it potentially brings a threat. If 3i Atlas is a mothership, it could release probes that would visit, so it could continue on its path, and it may look like a comet, just so that nobody would suspect that it has any technology interior to it. But at the same time, it may release probes that we will have a hard time detecting if they are within the Earth-Sun separation and have a size of order 10 meters. All the probes that we launched are less than 10 meters, of order 10 meters or less. And we would not be able to detect them with our current telescopes unless they come very close to Earth. So what I asked my research team to do, I'm leading the Galileo project. We have 3 observatories. The most recent one was constructed on the Sphere in Las Vegas, by the way, and the owner of the Sphere, I mean, that's the biggest entertainment center in the world. He came to my home a year ago and asked, his name is Jim Dolan, and he asked me to build an observatory on top of it. So if you fly above it, you would see it's like a freckle on top of the Sphere. So I told my research team to check if there's any unusual activity in the coming months, close to Earth. And also I advised NASA to check if there is, using the cameras on their rovers and orbiters around Mars, to check if there is any unusual objects that showed up. But it's all a matter of checking. I don't think there is any reason for an alarm, but I do think that we should not ridicule that possibility the way that the main.
Okay, this is boring. I'm going to switch to something else, Lobo.
You're having personal experiences. My personal experience. And the time that I felt most filled with the Holy Spirit was when I kissed a woman. There can't be a disproving of the Spirit of God in my life. That is a personal experience, just like you're having personal experiences. My personal experience and my community and my family all bear witness to the beautiful fruit of the Spirit of God being in my relationship with my wife and in our children.
This is me, a man who loves to preach about Jesus, is openly gay, and has a side he's never shared before.
Well, I like to, because I am a gay Christian. I mean, you can say.
That's like saying you're a thieving Christian. It just doesn't mix.
Say that, but at the end of the day, we got to go back to the scripture. You cannot claim an identity of Christ and an identity of the devil at the same time.
Amen.
If you claim to be a follower of Jesus Christ or a follower of God, you are also claiming to be a follower of the Bible. And so you can't say that you're a gay Christian. There's no such thing.
I think the worst group who's going to end up damned are those who thought they were believers. Those, watch this, who had the most revelation. One season you're with God and one season you're not with God. We know these people that play hokey pokey with God. Or they say stuff like, I tried Jesus, but he didn't work for me. That would be the saddest group in the damnation. Those who was this close to genuine repentance and fell short. I mean, you was on the doorstep. You had your hand on the knob.
And let us confess our faith today.
Hey, Shawnee, good to see you.
The Sparkle Creed.
It's very quiet, Shawnee.
I believe in the non-binary God, whose pronouns are plural. I believe in Jesus Christ, their child, who wore a fabulous tunic and had 2 dads.
For the 25 years that I have known you, right? Everybody that knows that you play a role in my life in the church, the number one question, they're like, yo, is Will a man of faith? Does he love the Lord? I'm like, yes. Okay, so but I want you to you from the horse's mouth. You a man of faith. You love the Lord.
You can't get where I get if you don't love the Lord.
Exactly.
You don't get to sit how I sit and move how I move if you don't love the Lord.
What my religion is, I'm taking the Muhammad Ali quote, and my religion is love, right? I believe in the oneness and the possibility of harmony between people who are all reaching for the one truth.
Whatever you call it, whatever religion you are, whatever you believe, as long as you're walking in love, I'm good. I hope you are too.
You guys were such hardcore Christians.
Yeah. They're rolling it out now, Shawnee.
Do you and Kanye have Bible studies just by yourselves?
We don't. I mean, we'll send each other like different biblical verses, and he'll
Yeah, his wife doesn't look like a happy camper, does she? She just looks angry and mean all the time.
definitely come to church. He'll love it when we're there. You know, I think we're more spiritual. I think we really believe in like the afterlife and heaven and just really spiritual.
I was in a cult for 3 years, actively being led to hell, thinking I was being led to heaven. And here are some of the teachings that he taught, and this is what the Bible actually says. We were not baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit as we were supposed to, according to Scripture. We were baptized in the name of our prophet. I was baptized in the name of Lodi, not Jesus. Many people in that church actually took his last name, Elias, because apparently our last name, if it was cursed or if there was a lot of bad things that happened to it, was the reason why those bad things were happening. And so if you change your last name to the prophet's last name, you then get the inheritance of the prophet.
Example, everybody says sex before marriage is a sin, right? Show me one verse that says that. There is no verse that says that.
Just look at a woman that's considered unfaithful. That's one there. Hey, Vaz, good to see you, bro.
The following are some of the jaw-dropping moments caught on camera that seem almost too crazy to be real. And it gets worse as the video goes forward. First is this person dressed in this demonic attire who approached someone's Ring camera.
Person popped up on the video with that goat's mask on, and they were approaching my door.
She noticed the person pretended to knock and was holding a sign with a Bible verse on it.
Now say something about this later in the video. Then there is this.
I kneel for no man. No man would I kneel for.
If Jesus can turn water into wine, fish into his body, loaves from the boy into what? Into what? Into his body. People can eat. Okay, I see food outside. Look at that. Look at that food. Be quiet.
It is in us. It is who we fundamentally are. The core self, what Jesus would call the heart. And the core self is fundamentally good and resourced.
If Satan had a church, he would utter the same lies that this false pastor just uttered. However, Jesus would say this about the human heart. Do not follow it. Follow me instead. Why? Because the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Modern behavioral scientists and Christian psychologists confirm the fact that the self-image is the real key to personality and behavior. I thought Jesus was the key to personality and behavior. I thought we were being transformed into his image. You see, We're being taught now. What you need to do, folks, is you ladies out there, if you're a little overweight, visualize yourself as that beautiful, slim-down person that you would like to become. Try to transform yourself into that self-image you would like to be. My Bible, 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18 says, we all will...
Stein posted a link that the capital of Iran has run out of water. There's no tap water left, and they're thinking of evacuating the citizens.
Open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into his image from glory to glory by the Spirit of the Lord. But now we're being taught to visualize the self-image that we want, and that the key to our behavior is to get a good self-concept and a good self-image.
33%, that's dreadful, guy. Wow.
The person preaching that you just watched is a transformer, if you know, you know, right? And heads Zao NKE Church, a LGBT friendly church. They describe themselves as Jesus-rooted, Jesus-centered, and radically inclusive. Evidently, they're none of these first two traits, just like these two gay pastors who were confronted live on this YouTube.
Shawnee, your link was nearly 3 hours long. It was too long to play.
Debate.
And I would say this, there is no such thing as a gay Christian. The same way you cannot claim yourself to be a fornicating Christian or a murdering Christian. You cannot claim an identity of Christ and an identity of the devil at the same time.
Amen.
If you claim to be a follower of Jesus Christ or a follower of God, you are also claiming to be a follower of the Bible. There's a lot of people right now who say, I want to follow Jesus, but they don't want to follow the Bible. And if you're claiming to be a follower of Jesus Christ, you also have to come under subjection to the Word of God. And so you can't say that you're a gay Christian. There's no such thing. You can't claim.
Wow, what a great guy! Look how young he is, and he's nailed it.
Something demonic and divine at the same time. There's no such way.
Well, I like to, because I am a gay Christian.
I mean, you can say that, but at the end of the day, we got to go back to the Scripture. We got to go back to what the Scripture says. The Bible says, "Let those who profess the name of Christ depart from iniquity." It doesn't say condone iniquity.
You can be gay and still follow me. I don't care if you hook up before marriage. You can do you and claim me, or you can follow him. Make your choice.
Whatever you do, don't listen to him. You can break free from this force field anytime you want. You don't have to stay in there.
If you wanted to leave, he would have done so by now. But he's not. Because he's curious. I can see it in your eyes. You don't want Jesus. You want your own version of Jesus.
Joshua.
The God you can follow without having to pick up a cross.
Josh.
God that serves you.
Up, come on, jump. Jump, move. Jump. Good girl. Oh,
I can give you that. Tell me more.
One person said, the fact that this topic has to be debated is proof that we are living in the end times. And as if that's not enough,
that's a good point. Never before has the world condoned men dressing as women like they do now.
Zao NKE Church dropped the F-bomb in their worship song with the following words, "I am F-word gay, and thank God for that. Christians cast me out, but Jesus had my back." Well, I feel bad for these people, man, because they're worshiping a false Jesus. And I really hope they repent of what they're doing and not to excuse in any kind of way this behavior. What about this other church who replaced a worship session for the Lord with a Beatles tribute band? Well, do people really know the dark evil ties that the Beatles had with the demonic world? Well, check this out.
Yoko Ono said that the Beatles were not aware of all that was coming through them. She said they were like four mediums at a seance would gather together and a spirit appeared and channeled through them. Yoko Ono said of the Beatles, quote, Something did happen there. It was as if several people gathered around a table and a ghost appeared. It was that kind of communication. So they were like mediums in a way.
What a nightmare Yoko Ono was. She blew the Beatles.
It was more than 4 people. As I said, they were like mediums. They were conscious of all they were saying, but it was coming through them. Lennon couldn't have made it any clearer when speaking of the Beatles' success and stating, quote, "I sold my soul to the devil." Yoko Ono also made a pact with Satan for Lennon and herself not long before Lennon's death. Albert Goldman reported in his book, The Lives of John Lennon, quote, "Finally, it was time to consummate all these spells by making a living sacrifice and signing a pact with the devil. For Lena was not a white witch. She was the real thing, a practitioner of black magic. There was no knowing what she planned to do to seal the bond with Lucifer. All she would say was that a witch's moon was nigh, and they had to make ready for the sacrifice." Lena said, quote, "We got to make a
What's the sacrifice? Lennon himself?
Sacrifice with the blood of an innocent to the one who has the power."
This person dressed like this at the beginning of this video reminds me of Ozzy Osbourne, who just passed away. We've talked about Ozzy multiple times on this channel, and Ozzy gloried in the name Prince of Darkness, a title for the devil.
I hated his music anyway. I thought it was childish.
While alive, and I hope he repented before it was too late, because man, eternal damnation is no joke. There's a verse in Isaiah 55 that says, "Seek the Lord while he may still be found." That means there's a time when people will seek the Lord and he will not be found. That is when you die. Because in Hebrews 9, there's a verse there that says, immediately after death, then comes judgment, and the judgment that is set after death cannot be reversed. So seek the Lord while he may still be found right now. Don't wait until it is too late when you can no longer seek him and find him, all right? There's also this guy. I've noticed him covered on many YouTube channels in my niche. What he did was so horrible and disturbing, you'll find it hard to believe yourself.
But if you're talking about sin, murder is a sin. Well, yeah, it is a sin, but God also commanded us to execute anyone that's preaching that someone other than him is God, because it's that serious. They're claiming that
No, it doesn't say that.
Jesus is God, and that's somebody other than God is God. So what's this Jesus is only God's son garbage that I was raised to believe?
He claims the name of God the Father, all right, according to the Bible. But just like the Pharisees who claimed the name of God while rejecting Jesus, this man is possessed by the same evil spirit, or whatever spirit that had possessed the Pharisees. Well, what did he do? Well, here you go. This is very hard to watch.
Brianna Whitney, reporter, went to prison, sat face to face, and interviewed a man who crucified a pastor for teaching that Jesus is God.
Be smart in the garden this summer with the Holland WX1 Wi-Fi tap timer, available at Runners Warehouse.
Shopping around? Try Yui. You insured.
Breakfast can be all Carmen's granola.
Say goodbye to expensive dentist visits forever. Introducing the all-new 6th Gen silicone dentures, co-developed with world-leading.
How did you pick out these pastors and these preachers?
I just let the spirit follow me wherever I landed. I just let the spirit follow me wherever I landed. And the first one where I went.
Remember the Night Stalker who held LA in terror in the early 80s?
Was Olive Street, the Church of Christ, and I thought, well, that makes sense. There shouldn't be a Church of Christ. There should only be a church of...
What he would do when he done his murders, this is the guy, the Night Stalker, I think it is. When he done his murder, he was a Satan worshipper. And he'd say to him, now, say Satan is king. And if they refused it, said, no, I'm Christian, I can't do it. He wouldn't kill them. He only killed the ones that hailed Satan.
of Yahavah.
So you get to Phoenix.
I get to Phoenix. I just set up a tent under a tree on Olive Street, and I followed that priest home Sunday after Easter service.
No, it's not this guy. They executed him about 2 or 3 years ago.
And when he pulled into his driveway, the 2 women came out of the garage. I'm not interested in executing anyone other than the pastors or the shepherds leading the flock astray.
Now we were forewarned about such people in the Bible, 2 Timothy 3:1-5. But understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of selves, having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Avoid such people. Many will look religious, but in their hearts and lives will deny God's power by the way they live. People have this outward cloak of religion which almost looks brilliant at first glance, but it's just false religion.
I am not looking for human praise, but I know what kind of people you are.
Yeah.
And I know that you have no love for God in your hearts. I have come with my Father's authority, but you have not received me. When, however, someone comes with his own authority, you will receive him. You like to receive praise from one another, but you do not try to win praise from the one who alone is God.
And I hope you're starting to see where I'm going with this video. Remember the last Pope who recently passed away? I'm talking about the previous one, not the current one. Here's a very unbiblical tweet he once put out. Right here he says, all religions are pathways to God. Here's what Jesus actually said. I am the way.
That wasn't long before he died either. He said that about 12 months ago.
The truth and the life. No man comes to the Father except by me. Again, this is the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Anglican Church, Justin Webley, in a recent podcast.
All sexual activity should be within a committed relationship, and whether it's straight or gay. In other words, we're not stopping the idea, we're not giving up on the idea that sex is within marriage or civil partnership.
Man, he's giving approval in a way of things that the Bible condemns. He even said this, all right?
We've put forward a proposal that where people have been through a civil partnership or a same-sex marriage, equal marriage under the 2014 Act, they should be able to come along to a church and have a service of prayer and blessing for them in their lives together.
And we have begun to produce a suite of prayers. These prayers are known as prayers of love and faith. They mean that same-sex couples who are faithful and seek a lifelong relationship will be able to...
These guys really believe this. They're crazy.
Come into...
Tell you what, Christ will know if you're a closet homo or not.
To churches in the Church of England for prayers of dedication, thanksgiving, and of God's blessing.
Here we're dealing with a problem that Jesus encountered with the Jewish unbelievers back while he was on the earth. These people wanted to kill Jesus, and they say things like, Abraham is our father. We are not illegitimate children. The only father we have is God. That is referring to God the Father himself. But Jesus told them, if God were your father, you would love me, for I have come here from God himself. So Jesus saw right through them. For in Matthew, he mentions how you can identify the nature of the tree by the fruit. So
no, I'll play that now, actually. It only goes half an hour. It looks good. Is that the right one? Hang on, let me just make sure. Yeah, that's it.
Came out involving more than 400,000 women. This study just came out involving more than 400,000 women, 28,000 breast cancer cases, and they directly linked it to air pollution. They've linked it to the pervasiveness of breast cancer now. And I think as more evidence is coming out, it's becoming increasingly apparent that microplastics are the primary cause. I mean, we are inhaling microplastics every breath we take. And depending on...
Hello, Lobo's dad, Mike. How are you, mate? Hope you're feeling well.
The size, if they're micro or nano, they can get in, and the smaller the particles stay in our lungs.
Oh, not that one.
Yeah.
We have special guest fan favorite. Kim Bright is back with us. She's a pioneer in the nutrition industry, expert in health and wellness, and founder of Brightcore Nutrition, now in its 27th year. In the 8th?
Yeah, I didn't know it's in movie. I'll jump to Tony, guys. We never go wrong with Tony.
Today is the day when NASA finally speaks
This is 23 minutes old, guys.
on 3i Atlas, doing a large broadcast and showing their latest photos of the
I didn't know it was going to be about Jimmy Dore. I didn't know that.
object.
I knew he was a bad lefty.
And of course, they're completely and utterly unimpressive. And we're going to show you those because we have people from amateur astronomy making photos that are 100 times better, while theirs is allegedly from Mars. NASA I'm referring to. We're going to get into actually a ton of stuff in this video. We're going to play a little bit of what Stefan Burns was showing in his live stream on what NASA was presenting, some of the questions people are asking. We're going to get into also other amateur astronomers showing just as good of quality, if not better than NASA. Kind of hilarious. We're going to get into also, very interestingly, Professor Avi Loeb, who's saying they tried to silence him. We'll get into that. And actually a ton of other stuff that we're deep diving into. We got the UFOs and religion, the Vatican, some rather interesting stuff.
That's the one I just loaded, Don. You said it's not that. Oh, no, it's a different one, yeah.
It's not right-wing talking points or fake news. It's not right-wing talking points or fake news or misinformation. People are angry.
I like this kid.
About something that is real.
Yes, it has changed that quickly.
On Monday, I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times.
Make one size short, make sure your bosom is covered.
The tide is turning, the tide is shifting, and too many people have access to the truth.
I think it's haram to be kind to individuals. That's my belief system.
Here's another one. Remember the Iranian taekwondo athlete?
Okay, then you should not love them.
Look at this. And these people just sitting here listening to that.
Illegal migration is creating division across our country. I can see that it is polarizing communities across the country. I can see that it is dividing people and making them estranged from one another.
I really refuse to believe that these politicians lack that level of critical thinking, but still manage to get to those positions of power.
Don't ally with all the non-Muslims, not just the Jews and the Christians. Any non-Muslim, don't ally with them.
Who is she banning exactly? Angola, DRC, and Namibia are all Christian countries.
One that opens safe and legal routes to those fleeing danger across the world.
They are not allowed to speak loudly in public, must be accompanied by a male guardian when going out.
New York Police Department is educating the public on how to properly wear a hijab. And by the way, this is not the Middle East.
No way. Wow. This is only 11 hours old, guys.
This is Italy.
Look at that. That's Italy. And look at all the Muslims called to prayer. We haven't got... Oh, gee, we looked after that. We did not let them in.
You will not find any people who believe in Allah on the last day loving those who oppose Allah and His Messenger.
Like a lot of practice.
Shut up, you traitor to the West.
Muslims, my faith is the most important thing
in my life.
Pakistan is not a conflict zone.
Even female news anchors on TV are required to wear masks and headscarves.
Yeah.
And this is obviously to stop Christians.
Yeah, Di, he's very articulate. I like this guy.
From being around. There is an absolutely huge deception taking place
subbed to
right
him,
now,
aren't
and
I?
sadly, many people have
Yeah, I'm
fallen
subbed.
for it. I'm talking about the recent announcement from this lady right here, Shabana Mahmood. Even people on the right, who I have a lot of respect for, such as Rupert Lowe, have come out and said things like this. This is better, Shabana Mahmood. You've been reading our paper. Now, we have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to prove to you that this is an absolute deception. And for some reason, so many people have fallen for it.
On Monday, I will announce the most significant changes to our asylum system in modern times. Today, I want to tell you why. Across Europe, asylum claims are falling, but in Britain, they are rising. In the last 4 years, 400,000 people claimed asylum here. Over 100,000 are housed and supported at taxpayers' expense, putting huge pressure on local communities.
Most of them, when they get to these countries, they live off the government anyway. That's why they come here.
Now, that's true, by the way. That is actually true.
The previous government had years to tackle this problem. Instead, they wasted time and £700 million on their Rwanda scheme, removing a sum total of 4 volunteers. This government has been rebuilding. We have record levels of immigration raids and arrests. We have prevented over 20,000 illegal channel crossings.
But how many have they let in? How many?
400,000.
And we have now returned nearly 50,000 illegal migrants.
Wow.
These were vital steps, but we must now go further. We need to reduce the numbers coming here illegally. We need to remove more people who have no right to be here. We will always be a country that gives sanctuary to those fleeing danger, but we must restore order and control.
Okay, so your typical politician speech, but it gets a lot worse, and I'm going to show you where the deception actually comes in, because there's 2 layers to this deception, which sadly it seems that even politicians on the right have fallen for.
But the first layer sounds okay. Let's hear what else she's got to say.
Let's go through these clips first, and then we will analyze the actual deception. This is her speech in the Houses of Parliament recently.
I know the British people do not want to close the doors, but until we restore order and control, those who seek to divide us will grow stronger.
Really? You think that the British people don't want to close the doors?
It is our job as a Labour government to unite where there is division. So we must now build an asylum system for the world as it is, one that restores order and control, one that opens safe and legal routes to those fleeing danger across the world, and one that sustains our commitment to providing refuge for this generation and those to come. I know the country we are. We are open, tolerant, and generous. We are the Greater Britain that those on this side of the House
Yeah, you're being played for suckers now, though.
believe in, not the Little England that some would wish we would become. These reforms are designed to bring unity where others seek to divide. Madam Deputy Speaker, I commend this statement to the House.
Now bear with me, because the deception, when I show you it, you're going to be like, whoa, okay, I get it now. This is really insane. Paul Embry tweeted the following: "It is unusual and refreshing to hear a Labour politician speak in this brutally honest way. As I said in a tweet yesterday, I know from personal experience that Mahmood is an impressive politician who is deadly serious about sorting out the immigration crisis. She may be thwarted by the Bloc or others in the Labour Party. We shall see. But she will undoubtedly give her best shot." And people are really falling for this. People are really believing this. But listen to her speech anyway.
I am the child of...
Last Saturday, Nigel Farage released a thing where Starmer, the British Prime Minister, was doing under the table deals to bring out illegal refugees from the United Nations. And that's what's caused everyone to protest. They realise they've been had. I wonder how much longer they're going to last. Labour, how much longer do you think this government's going to last?
Of immigrants. My parents came to this country illegally in the late 60s and the early 70s.
this is a moral mission for me. I can see that illegal migration is creating division across our country. I can see that it is polarizing communities across the country. I can see that it is dividing people and making them estranged from one another. I don't want to stand back and watch that happen in my country. What is happening with our illegal migration system is this.
Vast, I think Atlas is a mothership. I think it's true what they're saying.
Is a broken system. It's not right-wing talking points or fake news or misinformation that is suggesting that we've got a problem.
Now, of course, that's 100% true. These aren't just right-wing talking points when people are against illegal immigration and when people are saying we do not want illegal immigrants in the country. That is just a fact. These people are criminals the moment they set foot on our land because they are illegal.
Sean, it also says in the Quran, if you see a Jew or a Christian walking on the street, push him into the gutter. It literally says that. I've seen it.
Migrants. It's not hard to explain, but for some reason the left struggle to comprehend that simple fact. But anyway, there's something that she's diverting people's attention away from, and we'll get to that in a moment.
I know because I have now seen this system inside out. It is a broken system. We have a genuine problem to fix. People are angry about something that is real. It is my...
Thus, we got a very left-leaning government in charge, and they've stopped the illegal immigrants, but they're letting them come in like 200,000 a month. I don't know if that's true a month, but they're letting hundreds of thousands in anyway. So they're dishonest.
Job, therefore, to think of a proper solution to this very real problem, to do so in...
We haven't got the houses built for them or anything. We got a homeless problem, and we got to give these mongrels shelter when they get here.
Line with my values as a Labour politician, but also as a British citizen, and to have solutions that work so that I can unite a divided country. That matters more to me than almost anything else in politics. I'm not willing to stand back and watch my country be divided when I know we can fix the reason and the problem that is causing that division.
So read between the lines. She's ultimately saying that the reason for the division in the United Kingdom is because of illegal immigration. But is that true? Now, this is where things get really interesting, okay? Because the deception is not surface level. This is a tweet from a socialist, and he is quoting Shabana Mahmood, and he's obviously against her new policy that I'm going to show you here in a second. But it says, we will make refugee status temporary, not permanent. To be renewed after 2.5 years and not 5. To be permanent after 20 years and not 5. The ghost of Enoch Powell is cheering. That was somebody who exposed Islam. And Tommy Robinson is clapping. Labour is no more. The racists have won. That was a quote from a socialist. Now take a look at this.
We will do so by making refugee status temporary, not permanent. A grant of refugee status will last 2.5 years, not 5. It will be renewed only if it is impossible for a refugee to return home. Permanent settlement will now come at 20 years, not 5.
But here's the deception. Shabana Mahmood is targeting 3 countries with visa bans if they don't take illegal migrants back. So you hear what she just said about sending people back? If they can't go home, then there's going to be visa ban issues? Well, who is she banning exactly? Angola, DRC, and Namibia are all Christian countries. Just 4 Angolans arrived illegally last quarter. So out of all of those thousands of illegal migrants, Islamists who came to the country, she is targeting Christian countries with visa bans. Do you get the deception now? And there's another deception I'm going to show you in a second. But you see how insane this is? And people are cheering it. He goes on to say, Pakistan makes up the most illegal migrants, but no action. Now, it isn't actually about race. This is what it's about.
Islam, my own religion, like a lot of practicing Muslims, my faith is the most important thing in my life. It is the absolute driver of everything that I do.
And here is the percentage of Pakistanis who are Muslim. Approximately 96% to 97% of Pakistan's population is Muslim. The majority of Muslims in Pakistan are Sunni, around 85 to 90%, with a smaller but significant majority being Shia, around 10 to 15%. And she has told you that Islam comes first in her life. That Islam is the driving force in her life. And all you need to do is go through my recent videos and you will see exactly what is taking place in the UK. But I'm going to show you even more in this video.
But what I'll be announcing tomorrow is what the government intends to do on Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, in particular, which is around the right to family life, where we want to constrain in legislation the way that that is applied in immigration cases. I think that's the right thing to do because we've seen an expansion of the way that that right is applied in a way that is designed to frustrate the removal of those that under our immigration rules would not have the right to be in this country. So there will be legislation that will follow in relation to Article 8 and immigration cases.
So to put into perspective what the real issue is in the UK and why now the attention of the public and the masses is allowed to be shifted onto the quote-unquote illegal immigration issue is because of this. There are now almost over twice as many mosques in the UK as there are McDonald's restaurants. Yes, it has changed that quickly, and it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. So I did some fact checking, and
how can England recover from that? They can't recover from that.
It's not quite double, but there are more mosques than McDonald's in the UK, which is pretty insane, right? There's apparently 1,850 to 2,000 mosques, whereas there's around 1,400 McDonald's. You know, how often do you see a McDonald's when you're driving around? Quite frequently, right? How often do you see a mosque? Not really that frequently. And that's because their mosques are concealed in buildings a lot of the times. They're just normal looking buildings, but it's actually a mosque. A lot of them. Not all of them. Some of them do look that way and are obviously mosques, but a lot of them don't look that way. Now, why is this even relevant? I'll show you why. They no longer need to actually have people's attention against illegal immigration because they have reached a
Boss, I meant to watch that. Can you post the link again, please?
population level of legal immigration where Muslims are actually practicing something called from the womb. I don't use that term, but basically what this concept is that Muslims have more children than the native populations. When they have a high enough population in that land, over time, they plan ahead to slowly increase the population of Muslims, whilst the native population either stays the same percentage-wise or actually gets lower. So over time, the UK would become Muslim, even if there was no illegal immigration, if Islam is not pushed back against. So now the rhetoric is, oh, yeah, we can stop illegal immigration. But from what countries? What countries are these visa bans actually being issued on? 3 African countries, Angola, Namibia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereas we've already established that these are Christian countries, right? Look at this. Angola, Christian population is over 92%, but that's where they want to put the visa ban. Namibia, over 90% of Namibia's population is Christian. You see, these people actually would fit in with Britain. They have British values, Christian morals, not Islam.
Wow, I didn't know they were doing that.
Islamic values. So why are the bans being issued to these Christian countries? Well, that is one layer of the deception that I was telling you about. The other is that they already know that they have the Islamists in the country who are already pushing their Islamic ideologies onto the Christian people, onto the natives of this land, onto agnostics, onto atheists. And basically, over time, they have a long-term plan. The only solution to this issue is that there is a pushback against their ideology, that their ideological practices that are against Christian values, that are against Western values, such as the cruel slaughter of halal meat, that is banned. Okay, that women having to cover from head to toe with just their eyes showing is apparently what is necessary for that person to be morally acceptable under Islam, that be banned, because that is not compatible with Western values. These are the types of issues that the attention of the public should be brought to, not to issues that are no longer relevant. Because yes, we should stop illegal immigration, but this shouldn't even be a big deal. This should just be something that every government is implementing because it is breaking the law, okay? But to bring the attention of the public off of the real issue, which is the Islamization of Britain, of the West, and now starting in America and onto the boats, is strategic and it's actually very intelligent. But it's also not the real issue. You see this lady, Samantha Smith, she said, Pakistan is not a conflict zone, yet the highest number of asylum claims are from Pakistani citizens. They are not refugees. They have no right to be here. They must be stopped. But for some reason, Shabana Mahmood did not issue the visa ban to Pakistan. Why? These are questions that Rupert Lowe should be asking. I think it's great that he is being positive towards people instead of always tearing people down, because that is also necessary as a politician. And by the way, I'm not speaking against Rupert Lowe. He's actually somebody who is doing what the majority of the politicians should be doing. But the pressure and the attention must be brought to the root cause of the issue, and that is Islam, okay? It's very important. is very important. He said, I'd suggest sanctions, foreign aid and remittance taxes with a much wider target list. Include allies, hit them with everything. A deportation, NATO. We have power, use it, force them to accept their criminals. This one here, right? Now, of course, this is great. This is great. And I hope Rupert Lowe keeps putting the pressure, but remind people of the real issue, because it really doesn't matter how much you push back against illegal immigration, how much you push back in favor of the things that every government should be implementing anyway. You must push back against the Islamization of the UK. Halal meat must be banned as a priority for animal welfare, for the law.
It's too late. It's too late. You're not going to get rid of the Muslims or put them behind laws and that. They don't care about our laws. It's too late for England.
Of the animals, because it is a cruel slaughter method. And two, the values that contradict British values should be banned in the UK.
I wonder how they slaughter animals if he calls it cruel.
From being practiced. First of all, no halal meat. Second of all, no practices that contradict the British values of the land. There should not be people being allowed to practice things that contradict the very laws of the land. They shouldn't be allowed to preach these things, because it is hateful and it spreads an ideology that is literally a cancer. When you have somebody believing that somebody is the worst of all creatures just because they don't believe what you believe, that is a cancerous ideology. And let me show you a clip, actually. Many of these types of doctrines are being taught in the UK, in mosques, okay? Take a look at this.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly in the Quran tells us about who our enemies are and not to take them as your friends and protectors.
Don't take the Jews and the Christians as your awliya.
Traitor.
Okay? That you should not love them.
These people just sitting here listening to that, to this absolute trash that Jews and Christians are apparently not to be treated kindly, not to be loved, because their ideology says so. If any other ideology was teaching this on the scale that it is, I can guarantee you it would be banned. But for some reason, what's going on? Deception, distractions continually from the left. Even what Shabana Mahmood is doing right now, it is a distraction. It is a way for her to build stepping stones to probably try to leapfrog herself into the prime minister.
So I heard Israel was really mean to the Christians before the October 7th attack. I heard they were really mean to them.
See, that's probably what her goal is. She's very ambitious. She's also more serpent-like than many people have even recognized. And she is a deceiver.
Again, O you who believe, take not my enemies, this is Allah is saying, take not my enemies and your enemies as awliya.
So apparently their false God says that Jews and Christians are his enemies, whereas the Bible says the complete opposite. So yeah, these people are insane.
Bring it on, Allah.
Genuinely insane. If the true God of the Bible, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, says that the Jews, the Israelites, he loves them. That the Christians, the people who believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, he loves them. Who do you think is the one who hates us? The Christians, the Israelites, Satan. And that is who their God is. Even if you don't believe in any form of religion, if you just objectively analyze the Bible and the Quran, you will see that their God, the Quranic God, is literally the Satan that is spoken about in the Bible, in the Torah. It's amazing.
You will not find any people who believe in Allah on the last day loving those who oppose Allah and his messenger.
Allah said, don't ally with the Jews and the Christians. And of course, perhaps we can, of course, also say that don't ally with all the non-Muslims, not just the Jews and the Christians. Any non-Muslim, don't ally with them.
And you see, this is why it's an issue for the agnostics and the atheists as well, for the Hindus, for the Buddhists, for the Sikhs. This ideology, Islamism, is against everybody who is not a Muslim. And sadly, that mentality has grown in the West in such a way that it's led to these types of situations. Take a look at this. This tweet from Tommy Robinson says, send them back. Young imported Muslim engineer in Italy visits a church and proceeds to make threats to the woman parishioners in Arabic. And then he calls him this. But take a look at how kind these women are and how much hate this guy has towards these very lovely ladies. Look.
You are Christian? إن شاء الله يا رب تموتين اليوم قبل بكرة. It's a good word in Arabic. Nice to meet you. يا جماعة وأنا قاعد أشوف الأشياء المعلقة هنا يدي قامت تنتفض
Yeah, his hand started shaking because he's
I'd get that little punk and punch his bloody head in. Trust me. I would punch his head in.
demonic. That's why, because he hates love, he hates truth, he hates peace.
Have you information to ask? This is approved
Yes.
as a church.
You want me to pray here for this? Yeah? Yeah, okay. تنعم والله بذكر آخر عمري أنا تغريني والله في لكم على هنوديها بس سو ما تقدر.
And those are the people being imported into the West.
He wants to bash up the women. Like I said, mate, I'd punch the shit out of you.
Those are the people who are coming here claiming to be asylum seekers, right? But this absolute deceiver who puts Islam first in her life, says Islam is the driving force of her life, is putting visa bans
Wow,
on the
you're not
Christian
your
majority
state's number
countries
6.
and not touching the Islamic countries. Why? It's very obvious. I told you the deception was real, and this is just scratching the surface, honestly. But this is really what Islam is. This is Afghanistan.
And Shawnee, with Allah saying he's a great deceiver, Christians don't buy into him, Jews don't buy into him, Hindus don't buy into him. The only ones that do are the Muslims. So he's a great deceiver of the Muslims. No one else, because we're not being deceived. We're aware who he is. And they're too stupid to even work that out.
Afghan women are becoming increasingly difficult. The Afghan government has imposed new restrictions that severely limit their freedom. They are not allowed to speak loudly in public, must be accompanied by a male guardian when going out, and must cover their entire bodies with heavy cloaks.
Look at that. Imagine making your woman dress like that. I reckon Gabe would punch me before she'd do that.
Female news anchors on TV are required to
She better punch me before I do something like that.
wear masks and headscarves. Education and job opportunities have been nearly wiped out. Women are banned from studying beyond elementary school and are not allowed to work for NGO. If they fall ill, they cannot see male doctors, yet female doctors are extremely scarce, making medical care almost unattainable.
Dearborn. Jesus Rodriguez was from Dearborn. He wrote a couple of good albums. Cold Fact was one of them. Sugar Man was a hit.
For them.
He come from Dearborn.
From birth, the fate of Afghan women is tightly controlled. Their lives are wrapped in veils, and the only glimpse they get of the outside world is through tiny holes in their covering. Whether in cities or rural areas, they must wear face coverings at all times. Failing to do so could lead to harsh punishment or even deadly consequences. Their entire existence feels like being trapped in an invisible cave.
So where's all the feminists coming and speaking out against this? Where's all the leftists coming and talking about this and saying that that ideology is oppressing women, that that ideology is oppressing children, is limiting their access to even medical care simply based on the fact that they are a woman?
Yeah.
That is the true face of that ideology. If you study it deep enough, that is.
Yeah, Vance, what a coward threatening the old lady. I hope you die and your daughter's a dog. He's too gutless to even say it in English.
Why, when these types of ideologies get into power, it is the women and the children that are being persecuted the heaviest, that are being oppressed the heaviest. The insane thing is, this woman here, who says that Islam is the driving force in her life, Shabana Mahmood, who is now the Home Secretary of the United Kingdom, she wouldn't even be allowed to operate in this way in an Islamic state. Yet she comes to the UK and is used as a pawn for them, because they know that the people who are so liberal and left-leaning will actually be like, oh, look, a woman who is a quote-unquote Muslim without a hijab, without a headscarf, in a position of power. How empowering. Not realizing that the very ideology that she claims to believe in doesn't empower her. It actually subjugates her. It actually oppresses her. She would have to cover her head in an Islamic state. She would have to cover her hair. She would not be able to have a witness that is equal to a man's. What is going on with the world? I can keep on showing you these facts, but what's going on? Why are the politicians in positions of power who can actually speak about these issues, expose these deep deceptions, not doing it? I really refuse to believe that these politicians lack that level of critical thinking, but still manage to get to those positions of power. On the left, that's possible. But on the right, did they really get to those positions of power without being able to...
What? Yeah.
analyze and understand a deception when it's sitting right in front of their face? Or are they too afraid to call it out? Or are they part of it? Is the world just a big stage and everyone's just sitting in their place and collecting their paychecks and just saying things that they think the public might want to hear once in a while? It's mad. It's crazy. Meanwhile, you can't even make this up. Look what's happening in New York City to the police.
So ideally, there's different ways, by the way. You fit it how you want to, but you can make one side short, one side long, right? And then put it over and over my face. And some days you get creative, you can put a pin. I don't have to be sorry, you can have the rest of your face. And then just tuck it in right here. And you have to be supportive and make sure you know, it doesn't come. There's different ways. This is the most simple way that you wear it.
I got real life insurance to protect us financially. You can choose up to $2 million cover. Click to request a quote now.
Creating that gets you. Apply now to the University of Canberra.
Breakfast convenient. All Carmen's granola.
Just imagine a home that feels effortlessly stylish. This spring, explore the latest in tiles and bath.
Why in America are they doing this? The Bible told us that the devil masquerades as an angel of light. Don't be deceived by this. Why is this happening in New York? Is it because there's an Islamic mayor now? Is that why? This tweet from Derek Evans says, New York Police Department is educating the public on how to properly wear a hijab. Why is the NYC Police Department helping to promote Sharia law? Why is it promoting Islamic things in America, a Christian country? What's going on here? Does the world just want to lose its culture to Islam?
And what about the coppers? There should be some that stand up to this.
Well, everywhere Islam goes, it seems to try to impose its values, its culture onto the native population. And because most native populations are actually loving and kind, they tolerate it. But it gets to a point where you have to say, we're going to keep our culture. We're going to keep our values. And some ideologies, the only way to prevent them from actually just continually trying to push their culture onto you is to actually ban the parts of those cultures that are incompatible with the West. And there are many things that they believe in that are actually against the law when it comes to Western countries, such as the age of consent, many things. I won't even list the list out, but you can go through my past videos. You'll see there are many things that I've shown before, many legal situations that their values just contradict with the West. And, in Liverpool, people have just had enough now. And this is the thing, when the government don't step in, these are the types of things that happen. Take a look. The populations are being pushed so much, and
they don't fight one-on-one. They fight as many as they can on one. They're not very good. Yeah.
They feel oppressed already with a population that size of Islamists, and already the populations feel oppressed by an ideology they want nothing to do with. The backlash is starting to happen, and this is because of the left opening the doors for ideologies that people don't want anything to do with. This was posted by Wall Street Apes, and it basically says that Liverpool residents were against the Islamists who set up a booth on a public street to pass out the Quran and convert England natives to Islam. The situation quickly escalated very quickly. The British have had enough of the Muslim takeover of their country. And someone actually made a tweet recently. Before I get to that though, look at this. Why is this even in a London train station? Like, how does that make any sense? They're praising a false god in a Christian country. We worship the one true God in England. If you're a Christian, you know that you don't worship this. You worship Yahweh. Some pronounce his name Yahweh, some pronounce his name Yehovah. However you pronounce his name based on the transliteration of language over time, that's up to you. We believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. These people don't, okay? They claim to, but they don't. Why is this being set up in our country? This would never be allowed to be done in their country in the reverse way. Could you imagine going over to
Shawnee, 70 of them 72 versions are inheritances from hell. So when you go to their paradise, you get rewarded with victims of hell.
To Saudi Arabia or Iran and seeing praise the Lord Jesus Christ, the savior of mankind. He died for us, his blood was shed for remission of sin, and he rose on the third day. And whoever believes in him will not perish but have everlasting life. Or believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you shall be saved. Could you imagine a poster with that in an Islamic country?
Good night, Shawnee. Love ya.
No. Ask yourself why not. And if it's because those people would be taken somewhere and very bad things would be done to them, then maybe ask yourself, why is this being allowed in the West? And it's true what Tommy Robinson says here. All you hear about is Islamophobia. But this is what's actually happening. This is the tweet I wanted to show you. If you don't know about Mossab Hassan Youssef, he is a very, very intelligent man with a very deep story. If you want to go research him, I highly recommend you do. In fact, I have some videos with him on my channel already. But anyway, take a look at this. And this is very, very true what he's saying here. And it's very important, actually. So Muslims pushing this jihad by Islam and Palestine scam. Your real target isn't Jews. They're not your problem. Jews never hated you until you started quoting your own hate-filled texts. Pretty deep. But here's the truth. You're poking a sleeping giant. Your aggression, financial propaganda, and violent push to dominate Europe, the West, even Hinduism, is waking up a new Christian crusade. Now, this is a fact. We've seen it happening recently, right? Christians are rising up. People are waking up and turning to Christ who were agnostics, were atheists. This entire thing to convert the West and the whole world in...
Snow and Ella, the 72 virgins will be teenage boy computer geeks. That'll be the 72 virgins.
to an Islamized place is backfiring against Islam in such a way that Islam and people who believe in that ideology are actually going to start fleeing the West and already have started. And it's because it's not compatible. It's inevitable that an ideology such as their own will always try to push the boundaries as far as it can and will end up getting pushed back further than they even started. He goes on to say, keep bullying minorities, keep funding your social jihad, keep sending fanatics to and you'll ignite a brutal backlash. Oh, that's definitely a fact. You won't conquer nuclear powers like France or Germany. And then he goes on to say the clash is coming. He explains it like this and says they will pay the price. Back off before their quote unquote holy conquest blows up in their faces. Yeah, things are getting pretty real and people are waking up even if they don't want to. They're being forced to wake up. It's like people have been pressing the snooze alarm and they pressed it so many times that it's just not working anymore and the alarm's just going off. And they have to wake up. They have to get out of bed. They have to actually start telling their friends and family, wake up, the day has begun, you know? And yeah, there's nothing going to be able to change that now. People are awake. The tide is turning. The tide is shifting. And too many people have access to the truth for it to start going the other way. You know, Tommy Robinson tweeted this, Berlin Christmas market mirrored across Western Europe, barricading ourselves in rather than just barricading them out. And this is obviously to stop Christians from being rammed by psychopaths, you know, who believe in an insane ideology. Crazy. Like, do you really want to have to grow up in a world such as that? Here's another one. Remember the Iranian Taekwondo athlete who I showed you the other day, who is missing because she didn't cover her hair? Well, take a look at this story. Iranian chess player Dorsa Derakhshani was given an ultimatum by the Islamic regime of Iran. Either wear a hijab or you won't be allowed to compete. She refused to wear the hijab. She joined the USA team and became a champion. You know, is that the type of world that you want your children growing up in? A world where there is an ideology that tells your daughters, your granddaughters, your nieces to cover their hair, or they're not going to be given the same opportunities as women who do cover their hair. Really? Is that really an ideology that we as humanity want to condone, want to even allow to operate in society? I don't believe so. That is the type of ideology that is oppressive, that subjugates people, that treats people as a less valuable thing just because they don't adhere to their insane ideology.
Okay, guys, I'm out. God bless.
Belief system. Is that what you want? If no, actually start standing up for the truth. Actually start doing things. Start being active. Share these videos with your friends and family. This is honestly one of the best ways to